The formula for an arithmetic series is as follows. N times A1 plus AN divided by 2. N is the number of terms. That N value stands for the number of terms. A1 is the first term, and AN is the last term. So we want to find the sum of the first 18 terms. So what we would do yesterday is we would figure out what it's increasing by every time, which, by the way, what is it increasing by each time? 3. I'm going to show you guys algebraically because we're going to do one next. That'll be a little bit difficult. 13 minus 10 is 3, just like 16 minus 13 is 3. So I know the difference each time is 3. So I can figure out the next terms by adding 3 every single time. However, let's go ahead and use the formula for a sequence. This was D of N minus 1 plus A of 1. Okay, so we want to figure out what the 18th term is. So I'm going to replace those N values with an 18. And my common difference was 3. And my very first term was a 7. This is what I started out with, a 7. So that goes here. So we can figure out what the 18th term is. So 3 times 17 plus 7. Can you guys tell me what that is? 58? Perfect. Okay, so I know what the 18th term is. Remember, guys, the formula that I just showed you, we want the last term. The last term will go right here. So I'm going to copy down this formula again. The formula is N times the first term plus the last term divided by 2. Well, the first term is 7. The last term we just found out was 58. We're going to divide this by 2 and multiply it by N. How many numbers am I adding together? 18. Okay, so if you type this in, what will you guys get for the sum? You should get 585. All right, so first, this is an arithmetic sequence. All of the ones we're doing today are going to be arithmetic. So we need to find the difference here. So I'm going to do the second term minus the first term. Can you guys put that in your calculator? Let me know what that is. Then I'm going to do the next one, negative 7 over 30 minus a negative 1 over 15. Let me know what that is. You can also do negative 2 over 5 minus negative 7 over 30. We're subtracting the numbers because we want to know the difference. Okay, can someone give me this first one? 1/6. Negative 1/6. Okay, what's the second one? Negative 1/6. You guys should be getting negative 1/6 for all of these. So that means my common difference, the common difference is negative 1/6. So I'm going to use my arithmetic sequence formula, which is D times N minus 1 plus A1. And I'm going to plug in a 9 because I want to know what the last term is. So my difference was negative 1/6. 9 minus 1 plus the very first term was right here, 1/10. Okay, so guys, go ahead and solve for a of n. I can simplify this to be -3/2 plus 1/6 plus 1/10. And what would that give me? Did you guys get -37 over 30? Yes? Okay, great. Okay, so that's my final term. This is my final term. But guys, I don't want to just know what the final term is. I want to know the sum of all the numbers. I want to add this together, this. I want to add all the numbers up to the 9th term. That's what summation means. So let's use that summation formula. The summation will be the number of terms, so that's going to be 9 terms, times the first term was 1 over 10, plus the second term is -37 over 30, divided by 2. And when you type that into your calculator, you will get -51 over 30. So we get -51 over 30 as our answer. Okay, so using this formula is much quicker than just adding all of these terms together like we did yesterday. All right, let's try number 5. Okay, so we have the summation. Our starting term is 1, our ending term is 10. And this is our rule, 6k plus 1. So remember, we're going to use this formula. N times the very first term plus the very last term over 2. This is our formula for summation. Okay, so the very first term, let's figure out what the very first term is. I'm going to plug in the first term, which is a 1. So 6 times 1 plus 1 is 7 plus, let's figure out the final term. So I'm going to plug in a 10 into here. 10 times 6 is 60 plus 1 is 61 over 2. And how many terms do we have? 10. There's 10 terms. It goes from 1 to 10. So 10 terms. Okay, so now we'll just solve this. 61 plus 7, 68 divided by 2, 34, so 340. So that means this is equal to 340. All right, we're going to do one more example. Okay, this one is a little bit special because notice I'm not starting out with 1 this time. So my number of terms, when I'm using my formula, n times a1 plus an over 2. This n will not be 20 because there's not 20 terms this time. I didn't start at 1. Do you guys know how many terms there will be? 19. Because if this was a 1, you would say there's 20 terms. But since that's a 2, that means there's 19 terms. Okay? So a quick way to calculate the number of terms, because this n value stands for how many terms there are. A quick way to do this is you can subtract these numbers. So you'll do 20 minus 2, and you get 18, and then just add 1 to that. So our n value is 19. Subtract them, but then add 1. So I'm going to make this a 19. That's how many terms we'll have. Okay, so we're starting out with 2 this time. So that means my first term, I'm plugging in a 2. into here, and I get 1 minus 4 times 2, which is, what will this be? -7? Okay, so that means my very first term is going to be -7. Now let's plug in the final term. So I'm going to plug in the 20 right here. This will be 1 minus 4 times 20. This will be 1 minus 80, which is -79. So this will be -79. Okay, so calculate this and let me know what your sum will be. Looks right. -817 will be your sum. So we have a brick wall that was built such that the bottom row has 200 bricks. So that's what we're starting off with. And each row thereafter has 4 bricks fewer. So we're subtracting 4 every time. Okay, so I'm going to remind us of this formula. This is the arithmetic sequence formula. Plus a of 1, which is 200. So let's fill in our stuff. I know that my difference will be -4 each time. N minus 1 plus 200. And I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. -4n plus 4 plus 200. So that means a of n is equal to -4n plus 204. Okay? That is my sequence for this. Okay, now it wants to know the sum. On which row was there 3,000 bricks total? Okay, so what we're going to do is this equation was in, we don't know which row it is. They're asking which row it is, so we don't know what n is. A of 1 plus an over 2. This is the formula that we learned today. So a of 1 we know is 200 plus a of n is this formula that we just found. I'm not going to have an exact number because I don't know what n is. We don't know which row we're talking about yet. That's what we're trying to find. So I'm going to plug in this formula. -4n plus 204 all over 2 times n. We're trying to figure out what n is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. 200 plus 204 will be 404, all divided by 2 with an n on the outside. Now let's simplify this inside. This is -2n plus 202. And I have an n. And I know that there's going to be 3,000 bricks total, so I'm just going to equal this to 3,000. All right, let's go ahead and distribute this in. And you're going to have to use the quadratic formula. We have -2n plus 202n. Sorry, this is squared. N times -2n is -2n squared equals 3,000. Okay, so I'm going to move everything to one side. This will be a +2n squared minus 202n plus 3,000 equals 0. I move this over and move this over. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and simplify this by dividing everything by 2. This will be n squared minus 101n plus 1,500. You're going to use the quadratic formula. You guys remember that? So it'll be n equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So in this case, this is what I'm going to have you type in to your calculator. This b value is -101. So I'll put that in there. -101, -101. Your a value is just 1, and your c value is 1,500. So you can type this into your calculator and let me know what you get. You'll get two answers because there's a +1 and a -1. I know off the bat, two negatives make a positive. So that's basically 101. Okay, when you type this into your calculator, you'll get n is equal to 82.91, meaning 82.91 row, which is basically the 83rd row. And then n equals 18.09, which is basically 19 rows. Now, the one that makes sense would be this one, because if you plug in a 19 right here into this formula, you'll get a positive answer. Whereas if you plugged in this 82, you would get a negative answer, and you can't have a negative number of bricks. So once you lay 19 rows of bricks, you'll have 3,000 bricks total. If you want to figure out how many bricks are in the 19th row, just plug that into this formula, and it'll tell you how many bricks are on the 19th row. But if you add up all the rows total up to 19, you'll get 3,000.